So this is the work I've been doing recently with a colleague of mine, Tania Ramos, that just moved to change to Instituto Superior Técnico, which is another engineering school in Lisbon. And this is something we started about 1.5 years ago, and we have been quite enthusiastically working on. Okay. So, but before going to the details about the work, so we met last year, but I didn't show where I was working, where I'm working. So I work in this is the campus. All these buildings are the campus. These are some sports facilities there. And this is the building where I work, mathematical department and pedagogical stuff, school, rooms for classes. And it's on the other side of the river, so it's there, Lisbon is there, and here is the faculty. It's quite easy to get there, so you can take the boat, which is a very nice to cross the river by boat. So you can take the boat and then the subway, or you can cross the 25 de Abril bridge, which is similar to the one in San Francisco, and is also a very nice way to go to the university. It's near those beach, which are here. So this is, I don't know, 5 kilometers or so, and they are very well known for surf sports and stuff like that. So it's windy and with waves. So for those who like some summer or not so summer sports, it's a very nice place to go there. So if you want to visit me, just let me know and we'll see things. So now to the work stuff. So the problem. Well, I think you know the problem. The problem comes from when elderly people don't have enough support or enough from the family when they start needing some assistance because they are not already not independent enough to take care of themselves. So some of them need to just cleaning place, but others need more, are more dependent, like they don't dress themselves, they don't bath, so they need assistance. And since families can no longer take care of them or have them at their places, they contract some caregivers that go to their homes and take care of them. So that's really the main context of the problem. And so what we need to do is to plan the schedule of each caregiver. So we have a set of patients, elderly people. They are not really patients, they are elderly people. Many of them, they are not sick. They are elderly people that need to be visited. And so we want to know which patient to visit and when. Okay? So traditionally this is done by nurses if they are in need of some medical assistance. In our case, it's just ladies that go to their places to take care of people. They don't have medical expertise. And this work is done in collaboration with the social assistant, and she was having problems to get this schedule and to allocate the caregivers to the patients. So the case is a small case, so it's a Catholic parish near Lisbon. They have 66 patients. They offer different services like meal delivery, those activities of the daily living, bathing, dressing, and this is done at the homes of the elderly. Some adult daycare center where people stay during the day. And then some of the elderly needed the caregivers to walk them to the daycare center. So they are not walking very easily, so they need someone to take them to the daycare center. And regarding the visit frequency, there are some persons that need more than a visit a day. For those that are laying in beds, for instance, they need to be visited 2 to 3 times a day. But there are also others that only need once a week or twice a week. Those more independent persons don't need that many visits during the week. So why do we have non-loyalty in our title? It's because usually in literature, or when we think of this kind of problem, what we think is that we want caregivers and patients to know each other. And so the idea is that to make an allocation so that they can get acquainted, and it will be more easier for them to help each other if they know one another very well. The problem is that in countries like Portugal, sometimes to know someone very well, people cross the borders of professionalism. Both sides, not really only the caregivers, also the elderly. The elderly became more demanding, and sometimes the caregivers became more relaxed. And the social assistant had lots of complaints from both sides, and she said, I don't want to be the loyalty thing. So I don't want to have always the same caregiver to visit the same patients. I want them to change on a weekly basis, okay? And she had already come up with some rules. And so the caregivers had to rotate among the patients, and also, because they worked in teams of 2, they had to also rotate among themselves, okay? So, because some of them didn't like to work with one another, so if they all had to work together, the social assistant thought it was the best way to ease all these human natures that come out when working in a long period. So this is more or less the geographical dispersion of the places that have to be visited. And in fact, they live in 2 different urban areas. They are, within each area, it's walking distance, but from this area to this, usually the caregivers take a bus. Okay, and then some patients need to be walked to the daycare center, which is located here in the center. So it's really geographically well located according to all the other nodes. So in this case, there are 6 caregivers that work in teams of 2. Each team departs in the morning from the daycare center and returns at the end of the day. So this is the traditional vehicle working. But they have lunch at the daycare center at 1 p.m. So every team returns to the depot, which is not a depot, of course, at 1 p.m. to have lunch. And they have a break of 1 hour at this center. And one of the teams have to arrive 1 hour earlier to help the delivering of the meals. That's another thing that they do when working. So from the 66 persons they attend every week, 39 just need meal delivery, so it's just they don't need any other type of assistance, so we didn't take them into account. 70 patients needed meal delivery and home care services, so those are our nodes. But they are, in fact, only 15 homes because some of them were couples. So it's 70 patients, but only 15 homes. And that's the points are the homes to be visited, and those lines are the geographical, are the nodes visited by the teams. Okay? So we have a team that worked on that area over there, a team that worked in these inner points, And then there was another team that worked on the remaining points that are on the outside of those two red lines. So as you might see, this is not really a very optimized design for the walking around of those workers. In fact, this is the workload, the week workload, so the number of hours, well, the number of minutes they spend per week working on those, visiting those nodes. And as you can see, it's not really balanced between the teams, and there are teams that really walked a lot when compared to the others. Okay, so you see also ×2 and ×3 there. That means that they are the nodes that need at least 2 or 3 visits, that need not at least, but they need exactly 2 visits or 3 visits a day. Okay. So in terms of walking time, this schedule is about 900 minutes a week. Okay, they have to walk. This is done by hand, and we came out with the data from paper sheets when everything is written down, and we just had to go through those papers to get the information. So everything is done by hand with the help of a small Excel sheet that I think works only for writing data there, not really to use them for calculations or anything like that. Okay, so what we decided to do. How do you get the routings, because in fact it's the routings you want to do, and also to change the workers that visit people. So we thought of that, and we come out with the idea that to deal them as 2 different problems. So we have, for the routing, we decided to have to go with a multi-period vehicle routing problem with time windows. The time windows are needed because some people need to be visited in the morning, some in the afternoon, and those that need 3 visits a day need to be visited in some specific periods. Multi-period because we could not do it in one day and then replicate the day over the week because of those that are visited once or twice a week. So if we want to get optimal routing, we need to get the week, the 5 days of the week. It's just weekdays, not weekends. And that's why we went with the vehicle routing problem. And then the mixing of the caregivers in teams, we've done that with an allocation problem. So I forgot to tell you something. In here, we decided, so vehicles here are teams, not people, so it's teams of 2, and we impose total loyalty. So the team that visits patient 1 will be always the same during the week. What changes is are the persons that compose team 1. That's the allocation problem. So instead of doing everything in the routing problem, which is hard enough when you have the simple routing problem, we decided to get those decisions about who were the people in each of the team in a separate problem. Okay? So we came out with 2 problems, and that's what I'm going to show you. First, what we did with the VRP, and then what we did with the allocation problem. So far, so good? Yeah? Not sleeping yet? So for the VRP with time windows, so we just think of service tasks nodes to visit the elderly homes, okay? And so we have patients that just need 1 visit a day. They have some things that have been already arranged with the family. Each of these activities takes some time, so this is the service time. In this case, this visit duration takes 60 minutes, and we set the time window of 0 to 240 minutes, where 0 is 8 a.m., I think. 9 a.m. So between 9 and 11, this person has to be, or 12, this person has to be visited. The visiting has to start in that time window, okay? So this is one kind of patient. Another kind of patient is patients that need more than one visit a day. For instance, the case is when people have to wear diapers. So diaper has to be changed twice or 3 times, it depends on the family. And then what we decided to do was to replicate the node as many times as needed to be visited. So instead of going there once, the nodes the vehicle has to go to that node in all the replicas, okay? And the periods are modeled by the time windows. So we have to have adequate time windows to make the vehicle return to the same point, okay? So lunch break, what we decided to do was that also to get an extra node with the same location of the daycare center, to impose a time window with no flexibility on the starting period. So they have to start at 1 p.m., okay? And the duration of the visit to that node is 60 minutes. So this is the way we model our lunch break. And then for those patients, for those elderly that needed transportation service to the care center, the way we did it was, again, we replicated the daycare center as a fictitious patient that needs to be visited immediately after the caregivers visit the patient that needed the transportation. So, did I make myself understand? So, Mr. Smith needs to be walked to the daycare center, is visited in the morning, and the next thing the caregiver does is to take him and walk him to the daycare center. Okay? So, we use fictitious, so we replicate nodes, so we could have, so the constraint on vehicle routing that the vehicle just goes once for each node could be more easily done, okay? Of course, this approach increases problem size, which is really not the best thing we do with VRPs. But this was an approach. It's questionable, and suggestions are very welcome to look at these things in another perspective, okay? So again, services are the elderly, the patients, vehicles are the teams. And as you know, I work with modeling, well, equations, not really with as you do. So I like X and S's and Y's and J's. So this model has this is a traditional VRP. So the variable, the binary variable is X, which is equals to 1 if team K travels from Y to J consecutively on day T. Okay, so T are the 5 days of week. And then we have the visiting period, so it's a continuous variable that states when should the team arrive at the patient's house, okay? So with these two variables, we defined our model. So the first, we minimized walking time, which is a proxy of walking distance. So we decided to go for walking time. And remember that there are 2 urban areas and they don't walk. They take a bus to go to the other urban area. And the social assistant said to us that they should visit, the team that takes the bus should visit all the patients or all the elderly of that other urban area. So we were thinking, how do we integrate that thing of making all the nodes visit in a consecutive way, not making the team go back to the depot and then visit again? And how did we model the bus? And we decided to use the real distance, because optimally, as the distance is larger, so once the vehicle goes to that area, it stays there because it doesn't pay off to go back and go again. So since we are minimizing a proxy of the distance, if we leave the real distance as if they were walking, the solution will get what we want is just to get all the nodes visit at once. Okay? So that thing that they should be visit all together, it didn't pay any trouble because optimally we would get that thing, that constraint. So these are the traditional constraints of VRP. All requests must be attended, all teams must leave from the depot, be back at the depot, and the time window constraint. So this is really what's traditional in VRPs. And then our specific constraints is just only one team can visit each patient during the week. That's total loyalty, okay? The same team has to visit, sorry about the mistake, has to visit the patients and all its replicas, because since we replicated patients, we had to assure that the team that visits in the morning is the same that visits in the afternoon. They are not different nodes, although for the model they are. And the walking back to the daycare center. And again, all teams had to visit the lunch break node. And this had to be modeled separately because it's a different node. Because that node is visited by all vehicles and not visited by one. So we had to design, either we triplicate the node, we could do that, and each vehicle would go to one of those, but we didn't think it was really that interesting. So we built a new constraint, and this node is a special one that is visited by all vehicles, okay? So this is the model. And this is the solution. When we put this in Cplex, push the button, and we could get this solution. It looks a little bit better than the one that is currently being used, okay? And we were able to decrease the walking time in 14%, okay? Remember, it was about 900, and now it's about 800. The problem was that this solution got out of memory after 4 hours of being computed, and the gap, well, the Cplex says that the optimum is at most 30% away from that 700 value. We know it's not, it's better than that, but we cannot get Cplex to say to us that the optimal is closer to that solution than in 4 hours. So for those who use Cplex as a black box, know that 30% gap is terrible, but it's a question of the bound that doesn't close the gap, not really the quality of the solution, okay? And so he had to do something different, and we thought, well, this is a simple problem. We have patients, we just need the 5 days a week because patients, there are some patients that are visit only twice. And so what we decided to do was to take the days independently. So we first sort the weekdays according to the number of patients to be visited. We pick the one with more patients to be visited. We solve the problem for that day, which is the worst day. And then from the solution, we assign the teams to the patients. And then with the allocation done, patients to vehicles or to teams, we only need to get the sequence, okay? So the problem becomes much easier. And then we repeat the sequence for all the days that are remaining. In this is really small case. We just have 2 different days. We have Monday and Thursday that have more patients, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays, sorry, are the ones that have less patients. So in fact, with running the model twice, we got the solution. That's what we did, and this is the solution after that heuristic approach. We haven't proved that with Cplex, but we believe this is the optimal solution. So in fact, it's not, we can increase the quality by 23% from the current solution in practice. The solution looks a little bit more routing solution, you know, clustering the nodes so that there are not many crosses, okay? And what we see is that we took it very fast, okay? So it's not really the problems, the time now. The problem is, if you look there, well, the square is the center, okay? It's not really balanced. So there are teams that walk a lot, and there are other teams that don't walk. They will argue for sure, okay? And just to show you, this is more or less the workload. So there's a team that walks 2,000 minutes and a team that walks 300 minutes. It's not really balanced in terms of workload. And so we decided to go for another objective function, which is minimize the maximum workload, okay? And that's what we did next, was to minimize the workload, min-max the workload, and we came up with solutions that are more even. This is the procedure, the heuristic procedure, taking the day to solve first the worst day, the day with more visits, and then to set the allocation, then to solve just the sequence for the other. And here we did the same heuristic, but on the opposite way, just solve first the smaller day, the day with less patients, and then with the allocation, just see where to integrate the ones that were not visited yet. Did I explain myself? Suppose we have two patients that need to be visited. We have 10 in one day and 12 in the other. So in this first solution, we solved the 12 patient day first, and then the 10, and then got the sequence if we had only 10 patients. And here we did the opposite. We solved the problem, consider only the 10 patients. We got the routing, and then we solved the one with 12 with 10 patients already allocated to teams. Just the other two needed to be included. And we got a more even solution there. The problem is that they work more, they walk more, well, not walk more, they work more minutes in a week if we minimize workload, because to get them all to work the same, in fact, we decrease those that work less, but increase artificially, okay? So we get even. And the average workload in the minimax, in the objective function that minimizes walking time is better than the average workload on this min-max workload. So there's still some things to be done here. Okay, this is not finished work. And just for you to have an idea of the different areas, so this is the allocation of teams to patients. These are the areas the solutions proposed, okay? And so this has to be discussed with the social assistant. We didn't yet. And for her to say to us, I prefer this one, why, what we should do next, so this is work in progress. So this is the routing work that we've done until now. Any question? No? So I will now go to the allocation model, which is, 30 minutes already, sorry. So this is the allocation model. So now what we want is to design a week schedule for the team. So who works with whom in which team. So those are the decisions, and the constraints we need to take into account is that each caregiver belongs to one team. So this is an allocation problem. All teams have 2 caregivers, and all teams work every week. Okay, so these are the traditional allocations constraints. And for our case, We have also to impose that all caregivers should visit all patients in the time horizon. Now it's not a week, it will be n weeks. Okay, we didn't know how many weeks we needed to get all this to solution. All caregivers have to work with each other. The scheduling must allow a rolling horizon. I don't know if you know what it is, a rolling horizon. So it's just the rules that, suppose that we can get these rules working for 6 weeks. We want the week 6 to be okay with week 1, so we can just propagate the same schedule over and over. So we want to get these rules over a period that can be replicated eternally, okay? So this is what we wanted to get, the rolling horizon. No caregiver can stay in a team more than n weeks in a row, so they will rotate among the patients. And one and only one caregiver have to stay in the team at least 2 consecutive weeks, because the social assistant wanted everyone to work with everyone, but she wanted to have some continuity of work. So if, because many times elderly change the medicines or get a little bit more dependent, or and she wanted the information to pass among the caregivers. And since they work in teams of 2, only one change to know to know a little bit more of the way things were processed. This is dealing with people, not products. And so she wanted that constraint. So the model was quite simple with real parentheses. The solution is that it's a pure binary model. So we have a binary variable that says it's 1 if the pair of caregivers Y and J are assigned to team K on week T. And then the Y variable, it's not really needed, but it helped on defining the model. It just says it's 1 if the caregiver I is assigned to team K on week T. Okay, so that Y variable is not really needed, but it was easier to do it with that. And in fact, we don't want to optimize nothing. We want a feasible solution. So we got a dummy objective function. And so these are really the traditional constraints. The sum of the columns need to be 1. The sum of the lines need to be 1. So these are the traditional constraints in the allocation problem. Not really, this is done already. Also, these are not really difficult, because if you want all caregivers to visit all patients, just to impose that some way in the rolling the time horizon, the Y's are 1. If you want the caregivers to have to work with each other, it's just to impose that the pair IJs form somewhere in the rolling horizon, in the period, okay, in the horizon. The question of rolling horizon is very easy to model in GUMS, because they have an operator that works that fine, so we don't have to do anything. It's just the plus operator assures that the end of the set links with the beginning, and that's it. So this one was really, it seems complicated, but in GUMS it's really easy to do. And then to assure that there's no more than n weeks in a row in a team, it's just to impose that the number of Y's are less than n. So this is not really the trouble. The trouble was to model that 1 and only 1 stayed 2 consecutive weeks, or 3, okay? So that really was the trouble. How do you come up with all the possible combinations of the one that stayed? And this was, well, maybe this is not the most efficient way of writing it, but it works. And we took some time to get all these combinations of variables. I'm looking at Angel and thinking, oh, this is so easy to do if you had a heuristic and not really a hard model. But so this was really the trouble. And so this is just an scheme. We tried to see how many weeks we needed to have all these rules working, and the minimum is 8 weeks. So the problem is feasible if we set 7 weeks to do all this. And these are, well, the numbers are the caregivers, and the teams are the pairs, okay? Just to show you that only one stays in 2 consecutive, so 4, 4, and then the one that picks is the new one, stays another week, okay? So it works. And then it's a rolling horizon. The 5 was the new one. In the 8th week, it will be the same that will stay in the team in the 9th week, which is the same as the first week, okay? And then only 2 slides to finish my presentation, okay? So just to show you that the non-loyalty, in fact, was modeled with total loyalty plus another problem, which is change the question of loyalty. That's the way we decided to do, okay? And so the VRP is really hard, big news, and so we needed a solution method to solve it, okay? What we want to do more. For sure, we need to develop other solutions approaches. This was easy because the problem is not difficult. But one thing that we want to integrate is the non-daily patients, which are now, the days of visiting are fixed by the social assistant. She says it's Monday and Thursday. But we want to make them a decision in the model so that the routing is more even during the days, okay? And so we want to integrate that decision for those nodes that are not visit every day, which are the best days to visit, okay? And if we do that, we can no longer use the heuristic we did, okay? We used, so that's finished. And so we really need to develop different solution approaches to the model. We are now applying the model to a larger case study with more urban areas, more services. We have a master student working on that. So the first one is not done, the second one is not done, the third one is in progress. And this last one is what I want you to assist Manuel when he's coming, is just how do we accommodate new and new elderly that enter in the system, and the ones that leave, how do we arrange things so that we minimize the changes in the existing work schedule, okay? And the question is what we mean by changes. So this needs to be defined. What are, in fact, the changes? Is the sequence of the visit? Is the time period that elderlies visit? Are the teams that change? We need to see what would be those changes, and preferably it would be a lot of different types of changes, okay? So that's it. That's my last work. I hope it was not too much for the time.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have some, yeah. I don't know if you mentioned it, but do all the nurses have the same skills?
Yeah,
So
these are just cleaning ladies.
Okay, so you
In this
really
problem.
need to differentiate between nurses?
No,
in terms of-
at this case study, no. Maybe in others. I'm planning with another colleague to go into a problem which is in a rural area, sorry. It's on a countryside, and it's palliative care. So there we'll have to have doctors, medical doctors, and nurses. And on that case, I think it will have to have some kind of skills modeled, because palliative care is not the same as bathing and dressing, which is this case. So that's a third case that I want to study. I didn't start it yet.
Another question, if I understood correctly, the allocation problem is
Yeah.
already solved for you.
Yeah, that's finished.
So you already know how to solve this problem.
Yeah.
with allocation.
the allocation problem. It was hard to get the formulation, but that it's half of a second and we get the solution. Of course, if you have more teams, we have just 3 more, maybe things get worse, but it's an allocation, and allocation is solved.
The point is that you generate first allocation, and then you have these teams, and then your problem now is how to solve the BRP.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. To find this balancing situation. So have you considered a multi-objective version of the problem?
Not yet.
Taking into account both things, the minimization of distances and also the minimization of the
workload.
differences.
Yeah, that's the next natural step to do. And it would be interesting to have some kind of since we need heuristics, I'm not very, I don't know the state of the art of multi-objective heuristics for getting some solutions some efficient solutions, because what I know from heuristics is that they push things to the optimal, so we are trying to get the optimal. And if we get the Pareto solution, we want to the efficient, and also we want the middle solutions which are not really optimal in none of the objectives. And getting Pareto solutions in heuristic procedures must not be that trivial. It is?
I think it is.
You think it is? Oh, God.
So another question.
Okay, you'll come up next.
It was about, let me see, in your problem, what I don't understand very well is, do all the customers, because you say that not all the patients need to be visited every day.
Mm-hmm.
So is that they don't really need to be visited every day, or is that it's not possible for you as the capacity of your team?
It's both. So some of the elderly don't really need to be visited every day. They need someone to go and clean their places once a week, okay? Others, yeah, there's enough. Others might have family that can support them during the other days. And some cases were lack of capacity in the system. So the family come up to the center and say, I need you to go there and assist my mom or my dad. And they say, I can only go there on this day and that day. So all the 3 cases are. This started because, well, the social assistant responsible for this service wanted to extend it to weekends, because some of the people lived alone. Some live with the children that go in the morning for work, so they stay alone, but others live really alone. And so they wanted to extend the service to the weekends, but she had so many difficulties already managing 5 days that she couldn't even think about going to the weekends.
So the routes you draw on the board,
Mm-hmm.
they correspond to 1 day?
Yeah,
Because
each route is 1 day.
But is the day with more customers? So
I was expecting that question.
that, for instance, if 1 day you have less customers, then there will be like a gap in this route or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. Well, we didn't account for those phone calls that say, oh, tomorrow you don't need to come here because I'm going to the doctor, or because I'll be on holidays, or so we assume that if this is a week where no one changes the behavior, so we kept it simple, and this is more or less the solution we have on each solution. So, for instance, just team 1, Monday and Thursday, which are, well, the same day, the same number of patients. This is the sequence of visiting of the patients. Okay, so the team 1 will do this sequence, and for those that have a prime or 2 primes, are those that needed more than 1 visit. Okay, so this is the sequence, and this, which is in bold, those that are in bold, are those that are only visit on Mondays and Thursdays. So it's the largest days. So here, well, the sequence is not the same, but this is optimal, alternative optimal.
So
it's really, no matter what you do, it will get the same solution.
But I think you say when you solve the problem, you consider, you start from the day with more customers?
The heuristic, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Have you considered starting not with a day with the most customers, but with aggregating all the customers in a week? Which is the difference?
In this case is not really that different because we only have two days which have more people, and they are the same days. Well,
these days they have all the people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So it is.
Here in this case, we only have more people on Monday and Thursday, and they are the same and the complete set of customers.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we had some patients visit on Monday and others visit on Tuesday, that approach would not work.
So you will aggregate.
Yeah, yeah, we had to aggregate or do something like that, because we came up with that just for this. That's heuristic, a very simple one. Okay, just to have a solution. We wanted a solution. Then I thought maybe the group at WOC would do the hard stuff and get an heuristic, a better one.
What about the new customers? Because you mentioned that you were interested in considering some dynamism in the system. So the new customers appear like
every week.
Yeah, but every week, or it is possible that for some day, for instance, one customer that you didn't expect to visit, they call you, oh, I had an accident, or I had a change. So
that can be something like that.
Response to that in the same day?
Well, I think so. There's might be cases of that. I didn't enter that detail. I kept it simple. At least this is, without those details, this is better than what they have now. So the case study we are now studying, the larger one, has that kind of things constantly. So we will have to tackle that eventually in the near future, which is also a challenge. How do you and they share the resources. So the ladies that go and to the homes also are drivers that deliver the meals, because this is non-profit organizations. This is not a big a big Red Cross, or this is just domestic stuff. People needed assistance, and some people just went forward and gave them assistance. And those helping service started to grow, and some of them are now large, and they really are struggling with. I don't want to go to those really big profit-oriented or large companies. Those have already people working for them. I want to go to those that really do it on paper.
So what about if one of the nurses gets ill?
Yeah, another trouble.
How do you manage that?
Not now.
Okay. Consider that
no, everything is fine. No one misses. No, yeah. So now nothing. That would be very interesting in the allocation. Okay, that goes to the allocation problem. If one is not there, what do you do? Or do you keep your allocation model or allocation problem with that? So that's something to do in the allocation, because I think for the routing that's not a problem, because team one will exist. The persons that compose team one, it might be different if someone calls in sick leave, or if people go into holidays or stuff like that. But for the VRP, I think we don't have to deal with that. We just assume teams, not Mr., Mrs., I don't know, Gomes or Mrs. Juan. It don't matter.
Thank you very much.